Hi, I'm Jen Holtz, Associate State Director for Outreach at AARP Maryland. As an extension of our spring series to support parents and all caregivers of children who were home during social distancing, self isolation, and distance learning, we went on to continue the series through the summer. Our goal was to provide you with practical ideas for keeping your kids healthy and helping them to thrive during the summer months. With schools back in session, in one form or another, we will be continuing our series through the end of the year. Keep joining us over the coming weeks for our Lunch and Learn series, and please visit our website, aarp.org/MD, to learn about the resources in our state to support you and your kids during this unprecedented time. Today, we are joined by Mandy Katz, a registered dietitian and one of 11 nutritionists on the Giant Nutrition team. Now that our kids are back in school, whether virtual, in person, or a combination of both, it is more important than ever to boost our kids' immune systems and ensure their energy levels are fueled from the inside. Mandy, a certified specialist in pediatrics and a mother of 2 boys, is here to share the great information she broadcasts as host of Giant's Nutrition Made Easy podcast. Mandy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I cannot think of a topic I'd rather talk about.
Wonderful. So let's start with talking about how the pandemic has affected the way kids are eating. Have kids experienced changes in their eating habits since March?
COVID has had a huge impact on all areas of our life, but really eating in particular. And they've had both positive and negative effects, if you can actually believe that. So let's lead off on a positive note. So first, we find that kids and their families are eating more home-cooked meals. And when you cook at home, it tends to be a little more balanced, a little bit healthier. So the dietitian in me is saying more fruits and vegetables, right? So definitely that's been a very positive impact, because when we go out to eat, we tend to indulge a little bit more, right? So we know that's the positive aspect of eating at home. Now, on the downside, outside of those times when we actually gather to eat, it's gotten kind of loosey-goosey, Jen, and that means more snacking and more treating. And I think that's because the adults are trying to adjust to that new norm also. And so they're giving kids a lot more independence in choosing when they're eating, how much they're eating, and what they're actually eating. So this is really kids eating because they're hungry, maybe they're bored, but this downside really has a huge impact if parents and caregivers are stocking those cabinets with more treats. And we often think pretzels and chips and even crackers are snacks, but in reality, a lot of times they're treats. And really, all of this started when schools closed last winter, and then we roll into summer where we already know that we're a little loosey-goosey. So as we approach this next season, this is where we have to be aware.
That makes perfect sense. So, what are some ways to create a healthier eating environment?
Sure. First of all, everyone's online now, right? Not just with March, but now that we're back in school, a lot of those kids are online. We know a few have headed back into school, but for the most part, online. And we know that they need to maintain that same typical eating pattern as if they are in school, right? We want this in all facets of the day, but eating in particular. So start with that healthy breakfast. Give them that energy they need to really kickstart their day and approach that online learning with gusto, right? Make sure they've got a water bottle next to them. A lot of times we don't think about hydration, but that's really important too. And then have a consistent daily lunchtime. And this is going to give them that break from electronics, because any of us who've spent a lot of time online know you really need that break to kind of disconnect, give their eyes a break, give their brain a break, and sit down together. And then, of course, a snack. After school snacks are a thing that we all, remember growing up ourselves. So making sure that they still have that snack once school is over, again, signaling the end of the day, the starting of the evening. And maintaining the schedule really is going to provide them a much more seamless transition when they do head back to school. But we also have to pay attention to what they're eating and making sure that we have those healthy snacking options available, and really teaching them what that means to make a healthy choice and what that balanced snack or that meal looks like. So that's going to give you a much better environment.
Perfect. So routine is so important in so many facets. So can you touch on the relationship between food and immunity as we approach cold and flu season. I know this is top of mind for many of us.
It really is. And I wish I could say, Jen, like an apple a day will keep the doctor and COVID-19 away, but that's not really the case here. You know, after we do all of our hand washing and our social distancing, we can actually help to build a healthy immune system through a lot of things, and food is one of them. Absolutely, that sleep and exercise are important. I know the teachers are saying make sure kids get some sleep, but what we feed our bodies is really important as well. And there is no secret here. I wish there was this magic bullet, you know, that thing that would be the answer here. But really, it's a balanced plate filled with a variety of foods. That's always our goal. And we really want to use that USDA My Plate. And you can even just Google My Plate and you're going to be able to see what that looks like. But that's half plate produce, a quarter plate protein, and a quarter plate of a carbohydrate or a healthy starch. So that's really what our goal is there. Now, all of that being said, there are a few nutrients that you could probably sneak into your diet that's going to help support that immune system. And those are going to be those antioxidant rich foods that are high in vitamin C and vitamin E. And you're going to find those in things like brightly colored produce, dark leafy green vegetables, nuts, seeds, you know, all these things we already know are pretty healthy, right? They often give you that boost for your immunity as well. Now, the other one we think about a lot is probiotics, and probiotics feed a healthy gut, and that's where our immune system really gets built. So think about including yogurts. That's a great snack that they can grab that's complete, you know, cheese sticks. All of those things are going to give you that calcium and vitamin D that you need, build strong bones, teeth, and, you know, maybe an immune system.
Well, that's great. That's wonderful. So you touched on this a little bit earlier, but how does the importance of the family mealtime come into play?
Well, you know, that balanced plate with all those immune boosting foods is a lot easier when the grown-ups in the house are modeling that kind of behavior. In general, the data is so positive on gathering around the table. And your family is made up of whoever the people are that you love. So when I say family meal times, that doesn't always mean the traditional mom and dad, grandparent, uncle, aunt. It's anyone in your community that is your family. And so we know that regular family meals have so much positive outcome. We know higher grades, higher self-esteem. And if you're saying, how is that possible? Well, if you're gathering around the table, you can ask your child, how was school? Oh, you're having a problem with math? Well, now you can help them with that problem. So again, it's that dialogue. And we know that children who grow up sharing family meal times are more likely to have much better social habits like sharing and fairness and respect, which is so important. We know we want them to be really responsible adults. And we know that every single time we add one more family meal together, the kids have less incidence of depression, suicide. I don't want to bring up all these negative things, but we know, again, this is that emotional touch base that you can make while you're eating. And, you know, eating is a great way to kind of get everyone together, and it makes that conversation flow. And of course, on that nutrition side, kids who sit down with adults have less obesity, greater intake of fruits and vegetables. So, you know, I can go on and on about family meal times, but there is really no downside to it.
Absolutely. It's interesting, but not surprising how the connection is just as important as what you put on your plate. So great advice. Thank you, Mandy. So do you have any tips for those of us who have picky eaters in the house?
Oh, so maybe you found a downside to family meal times. So I recently did a podcast on this, and the question that was proposed was, are kids born picky eaters or are they made picky eaters? Jen, do you think you know the answer to that one?
I personally think they're made, but I do allow my kids to have one or two things that they absolutely will not touch. The rest, they're going to at least try.
Right. Well, and the answer is actually both. They are born picky eaters, but they're also made picky eaters. But no matter which one it is, the answer is the same. How problem. And it's just repeated exposure to new foods and lots of patience. And if you think about it, we fall into a rut and only offer the foods that kids want because we know they'll eat it. right? But then they'll only eat those foods because those are the ones that we're offering. So we get into this cycle. And, let's face it, we've got so much stress right now. We don't want to fight with them. We just want them to eat. But we have to keep in mind, without that exposure, we're making a picky eater. Now, I don't know about you, Jen, but if I was offered pizza every night for dinner, I would say yes. It's delicious, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm going to give 3 quick tips here. The first one is always offer something new alongside favorites. You never want anyone to come to the table and feel like there's not a choice. Second, don't make a big deal out of it. We make a big deal out, oh, you're going to love this, or like, I know you don't like it. It's there. If you're having good conversation, the food is secondary. So don't make a big deal of it. Oh, we're trying squash tonight. Here's a piece if you want to try it. This squash was grown in Aunt Mary's garden, or we got it at the Giant. It's going to taste a little bit like, French fries with less salt, like maybe give them some ideas, and maybe they're going to play with it. Maybe they're going to poke it with their fork or smell it or lick it or try and feed it to the dog. It doesn't matter. You want them to control that situation, be really comfortable with it. And then tip number 3, repeat. Right. Repeat. And there's so much more to this picky eating business. And again, that podcast I did recently is a really good way for you to explore some more options if you're interested. It's at our website, giantfood.com/nutrition. If you've got a smartphone, just look for it on your podcast app, Nutrition Made Easy. If you sort of like my personality today, this is what you're going to find in the podcast. If you don't, probably don't want to listen.
Well, this has been great. I really appreciate the information. I know all of our parents and grandparents and caregivers out there appreciate it too, because these are challenging times for sure. So thank you so much for being with us today. So please continue, everyone, to tune in every other Wednesday through December of this year for tips and tools on caring for your children during this difficult time. Our next Lunch and Learn interview will take place September 23rd at 12 p.m. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.